Hey everybody, I totally did not forget to press the audio button just now.
Nothing happened.
Only hit the record button. But you know how it goes. You make mistakes. It's fine. I'm joined by Linda and Layla, who are a mother. I think that was a high.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They are our mother-daughter duo from the church that we all attend. They are both very deeply rooted there. And we, in the interim of me forgetting to turn on the audio, we had an amazing conversation about what it's like for them as a family to be serving at church, which makes me think. So the whole point of this conversation is about Encanto, right? And we're kind of trying to like blend life and see how we can learn from the stories of our culture and how that impacts our faith. And one thing I am connecting that I've never connected before is I feel like with Encanto, you have this image of a family and they're in a house and each person has a very unique skill that brings something to the house, which to me sounds like church, like very, very similar. But something that we see in the movie is that some of the characters, they feel like their gift actually becomes a burden, that it starts to weigh them down. So for either of you, has there, like, what has been that journey for you in serving in the church where you felt like, I know that I'm really talented at this, but maybe you felt pressure, or you felt like, I don't really feel like the church has space for me, or like, did you feel like you felt and have had community where they saw the talent in you that maybe God gave you and they're like, hey, this would be such a blessing to our community, like, we want to bring this out and grow this?
Sure. So different churches and different denominations and everything, there's different church cultures, right? And so the church culture that me and Pastor Anthony grew up in was we're going to plug you in and you will figure it out and give you as many opportunities. And so one reason why Layla's really into music is because her dad is the musician. I'm like, when I was pregnant with her, I was like, look, I'll take care of the academics. You take care of the music. I don't, whatever comes out, divide and conquer, because, we all know our gifts and his is music. So when you were 3 months old, he got you some like conga drums and a harmonica.
Yeah. One of his primary goals when I was first put on this earth was to instill a love of music. That was a mission that was quickly accomplished. I play 3 instruments. And I'm in...
Too many bands.
I'm in like 4.
That we know
like bands? Like...
No, so I'm in symphonic band, jazz band, pop combo,
concert.
Concert band is different from symphonic band.
I'm sorry.
I was in concert band. I moved up to symphonic band, and then I do worship for church in both in morning service and for youth group. It's fun times.
And because music is such a big part of church, because Anthony used to play the drums in church, and so there's always been a space and a home for that talent. One of the challenges that we've experienced, we've been able to navigate it with Epicos, is in the church experience I grew up with and Anthony grew up with. If you were little, if you could walk, you could serve.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
So you could be like, they had the junior ushers and they were super cute and super tiny and everybody loved the babies. Or again, an angel choir or something. So if you could walk, you could serve in some kind of capacity. And our current church family, they kind of wait until you're much older. But there's a few, typically people who are on staff, but it's expanded, where we will plug our kids into connections, or music ministry. And so there's opportunities. I know Layla was on facilities one summer with the varsity boys, painting and
awesome,
spackling and stuff, and refereeing and having a good time.
Yeah, nice.
So there have been times when I haven't used certain gifts because God's like, this is not the time for that. And it's been very, it feels frustrating because you're like, well, I have a passion for this. He's like, yeah, well, it's not. I have this for you, and you just have to be obedient to the Spirit. So, but since the laborers are few, people tend to plug you in, which has been a benefit. So we've always been able to do something.
Expanding on the laborers are few.
I mean,
like, I think it's always great to have an opportunity to serve in as many ways as you can, but sometimes, I mean, you get tired. I get tired. We all get tired, especially when there are limited resources in terms of people when you are on about every Sunday. I remember when our tech team was about 2 people, and one of them was 13-year-old me, still in middle school. Fun times. But God has provided more people who are dedicated to serving through tech and worship, which is great. And so, having those resources in terms of people is a very valuable thing. So that way, the people that we have who have these great gifts don't get burnt out and then can't really use those gifts, because you can't use your gifts when your brain doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
She's taken quite a few naps in the tech booth.
Oh,
It's adorable though.
This is I have no shame about this. At school, there's a couple rooms that have like couches that are like way off secured, and I on certain days only teach the first 2 blocks. So I am unabashedly ashamed to be like, it's 1:00. It is nap time.
Yeah.
And I'll just go find a couch and go take a seat. So I hear that. So that brings up something interesting to me, which is that when I think of Encanto, one of the things that Maribel struggles with in the movie is I don't think I have a gift. And her gift looks a little bit different. It kind of takes some time for it to kind of mold in there. There's characters like Bruno, who he has a very specific gift, and people kind of villainize him for his gift. So this idea of the laborers being few, like that's, one of Jesus's like biggest lines is like, dudes, there's not enough of you doing the job. Like, where are we at? How much of that do you think is people just being like, nah, I don't want to do anything, versus maybe feeling like a Maribel or Bruno where they're like, I would love to do something, but I'm a fashion designer, and like, where does that happen on a Sunday morning? Or like, I'm a, a writer, I'm a, whatever thing you want to throw in there that's maybe like super niche and unique. Like, what has both of your experience been just kind of seeing that?
Well, I think, part of living out your faith is exercising your gifts and being mindful that the church is a body of believers, not necessarily a 501c3. Right. And so there's a lot of opportunities to use your gifts in ways that will draw people to the actual edifice of a church, whether it's sanctioned by quote unquote the church or not, because so long as you're obeying the Holy Spirit, you're going to be fine. So there's, I have a doctorate. I am in adult education. No offense to young people, but I have to do the adults. God bless you who do younger people.
I got you later.
Okay,
thanks.
I mean, I love you, and you'll be an adult eventually, and then you and I we can hang. But and so there's gifts in that vein where at a previous church I was the director of Christian education because. Duh, right? That's not Epicos. Number 1 doesn't have that role, and number 2, their philosophy on discipleship is different. But that doesn't mean that I don't exercise that gift either through small groups or just personal exchanges, or through my 9 to 5, where I've authored a course on ethics for grad school. And so even in that, how do you exercise that gift of teaching and teaching people how to be moral, ethical beings when they are interacting with other people? And then that can draw folks in various ways. So I think in terms of like Maribel, it was interesting because she had a lot of parental support from her mom and her dad throughout the entire movie. They loved her. They encouraged her. They supported her. She just had a voice in the family that was a little stronger than her parents' voice. And so even with Layla, one of the things, Hi. Yes, one of the things.
Your guy's dynamic is great. This is cracking me up. Anyway,
I love her. Yeah. So one of the things her dad and I were like, any question this kid asks us, we're going to answer, even if the answer is, I don't know. Like, we don't want to kill her natural curiosity. We don't want to dismiss her and make her think that she's stupid or whatever, that it's a stupid question. So when she hit that 2, 3, 4-year old, why is the sky blue? Why do bunnies hop? Whatever it was, we were going to answer that question. And so that she could build that relationship. And so I don't, because obviously Encanto, there's more that could be said.
Yeah.
But you see loving, supportive parents, but you just see that very overbearing grandparent that kind of squashes that. And so in terms of people getting engaged in church, there's those voices that are very encouraging. And we just have to navigate that with that one voice, because there's always one, right?
Yeah.
That may be overbearing. Because it wasn't just that she didn't know what to do with her gift, but it was that her gift was being downplayed and disrespected by somebody who ironically had the exact same gift.
Well, they didn't know that at that point.
Well, yes, they did. Neither one of them had a gift.
Well, no, you see, because Abuela was the original miracle holder, right? But the thing is, because Abuela is still the miracle holder, there can't be like two until the end of the movie, when Abuela kind of passed the torch in terms of being the miracle holder after some character development and crying, because crying is a very important part of character development. I love you.
Well, that was deep. That was deep and beautiful. And it does bring a point where, in not so much in my current church experience, but in previous church experiences, those old guards don't go quietly into the night. One of your grandmother's pastors is 90. And it's like, you should, you could retire, have a great life. But it's, he still has the fire within him, and he's still, moving forward, which is beautiful in many regards. And at the same time, being able to pass the torch in a graceful way, and being that wise counsel who provides advice and provides support and provides guidance is a very, very helpful role. But we see a lot of churches, a lot of social service agencies, a lot of organizations where that old guard, I'm in medicine. We used to see it in medicine, and then some laws had to change because being a pastor, being a doctor, being a nurse becomes part of their identity, more so than being a child of God, or hopefully a child of God. They could be a great many other things. And if you are not doing that job, then you are not being yourself. And it is very disorienting and scary. But then that causes frustration for the Maribels of the world, who are like coming of age and are supposed, God has this plan for them, but then there's this roadblock. But you love that roadblock because it's your abuela. Yeah,
for sure. So I want to ask you, Layla. So one of the things that with this movie I saw that I've been thinking a lot about, because I'm a millennial. I'm like just in that range. And I know you both being mother and daughter, naturally you're in different generations. And I think what I've observed is there's a tension in our culture right now where the old guard, like you said, doesn't trust the young guard, and the young guard doesn't trust the old guard.
No, that's always been.
Which is true, right? Exactly. And so I'm curious to hear from you, Layla, as a high schooler. How have you seen that play out, maybe in healthy ways? Like, how have you seen, like, you had, LaShonda from church who was like, hey, I see this in you, come do this. And you were like, yeah, like, rock on, you did it. But then I'm sure that there's been other voices, kind of like your mom was saying, who felt louder. Maybe it was only 1 out of 10, but that one voice out of the 10 felt like that was the whole message. So how have you experienced that, and like how have you navigated that at your stage?
Well, generally speaking, sometimes as people, it's easier to listen to negative voices than positive voices, especially when those positive voices come from like your parents. Because Mom, I love you, but sometimes it's like you're heavily biased, mostly because you gave birth to me and you've lived with me for my entire life. So I respect your opinions, but I also note that your opinions have a lot of bias as compared to like teachers or even like older students who don't know me as well, who I have a different relationship with, where you kind of hold their opinions as being more objective. And I think how that relates to the movie is, again, Abuela has, in terms of the structure of that family, she has a lot more authority, and her opinions hold a lot more weight than, say, Julieta and Agustin, because I mean, again, they're her parents, and she loves them, and she like respects them as a place of authority and as a place of love. But again, they're biased. At least that's just my general experience. I feel like in terms of like the authority figures in my life, as in terms of teachers, because I spent most of my life in school. In terms of teachers, I think most teachers I've had have either been pretty supportive, or at least, you know, all right. But that's because I think I've been, even if I'm not particularly doing well in that class, my teachers know I'm generally a good student. So I have a different relationship with my teachers as compared to maybe some other students have. But so most of the like negative voices that at least have come into my life have either been from other students or from myself, because self-esteem issues are a thing that are very fun. I'm staring at the dude on the wall.
Which one? The big
yeah,
Attack
yeah.
on
great
Titan one?
artwork, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a story behind it. I'll tell you.
Or at least, so where was I going?
You were doing great.
Essentially, so I love where you're going, and I actually want to ask a follow-up, just to dig a little deeper.